They called it eternal, a city of stone and fire, born beside a muddy river, destined, so its people believed, to rule the world. Rome did not rise quietly. It clawed its way out of blood-soaked hills, devoured its neighbors, and reshaped the meaning of power itself. But here is the mystery that still haunts historians today. How did a fragile village of shepherds become the most dominant empire the world had ever seen? And why did an empire so strong eventually collapse under its own weight? At its height, the Roman Empire ruled over more than 60 million people, stretching from the foggy frontiers of Britain to the burning deserts of Arabia. Its roads connected continents. Its laws shaped civilizations. Its armies crushed every rival that dared resist. Yet beneath the marble temples and triumphant parades hid a darker truth. Violence so routine it became entertainment, betrayal so common it became tradition, and ambition so ruthless it consumed emperors like fire. Legends speak of humble beginnings. Twin brothers raised by a wolf, one murdering the other to claim destiny. Myth or metaphor, Rome was born in blood. From the very start, power meant survival. Kings rose and fell. The Republic emerged, promising freedom while secretly ruled by the wealthy elite. And in the shadows, generals began to realize something dangerous. Armies were more loyal to gold than to government. Every conquest fed Rome's hunger. Every victory made it stronger and more fragile. Slaves flooded the cities. Wealth corrupted politics. Senators whispered behind closed doors. While citizens cheered gladiators tearing each other apart in the arena, the empire was quietly tearing itself apart from within. Then came the man who changed everything. Augustus did not seize power by brute force alone. He mastered illusion. He claimed the Republic still lived, even as he ruled as emperor. Under his reign, Rome entered a golden age of peace and expansion. Monuments rose toward the sky. Trade flowed like rivers of silver. For a moment it seemed the empire had achieved immortality. But history hides a cruel twist. The same system that made Rome unstoppable planted the seeds of its destruction. Expansion demanded endless war. War demanded endless soldiers. Soldiers demanded endless money. And money, once abundant, would soon become the empire's greatest weakness. Even in its glory, cracks were forming. Generals dreamed of thrones. Emperors feared assassination every night. Borders stretched too far to defend. Enemies watched, waited, learned Rome's tactics, and prepared to strike back harder. The question that echoes through time is not how Rome became powerful. It is how something so powerful could ever fall. And as we peel back the layers of conquest, betrayal, and ambition, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Rome was not destroyed by barbarians at the gates. Rome was destroyed by the empire it built itself. An empire is not built by destiny. It is built by discipline and fear. The secret behind the unstoppable rise of the Roman Empire was not just its armies, but its system. A machine so efficient, so ruthless, that it could absorb entire civilizations and make them Roman within a generation. But here lies the twist. Rome did not conquer the world by destroying it. It conquered by transforming it. The Roman legion was more than a fighting force. It was an industrial weapon. Soldiers trained relentlessly, marching 20 miles a day in full armor, building fortified camps every night, even in enemy territory. Their formations moved like living walls of iron. When enemies charged wildly, Rome advanced with calculated precision, and when resistance refused to break, Rome did something far more terrifying. It returned stronger. Roads followed the legions. Stone highways cut across mountains, forests, deserts. Trade flowed behind the sword. Cities that once resisted Rome soon relied on Roman protection. Aqueducts carried water across impossible distances. Amphitheaters rose in conquered lands. Latin spread. Laws standardized. Citizenship became a reward and a trap. This was the brilliance of Rome's expansion. It offered inclusion. Conquered elites could join the empire's political system. Former enemies became governors, senators, generals. Loyalty was purchased not just with gold, but with identity. To be Roman meant power, and millions accepted the offer, yet expansion had a hidden cost. As Rome stretched from Britain to North Africa, from Spain to the edges of Mesopotamia, its borders became thin lines drawn across hostile worlds. Germanic tribes studied Roman tactics. Parthian horse archers shattered Roman pride in eastern deserts. And inside the empire, wealth inequality widened into something explosive. Meanwhile, ambition simmered. Generals who commanded loyal legions realized something dangerous. If soldiers followed them into battle, they might follow them into politics. Civil wars erupted not because Rome was weak, but because it was strong enough to tempt every powerful man with the ultimate prize. Emperors rose through bloodshed. Some ruled wisely. Others descended into paranoia and madness. Assassinations became routine. In a single chaotic year, multiple emperors could claim the throne and die trying to keep it. The empire survived each crisis, but every survival left scars. And yet, Rome reached its peak. Under Trajan, its territory expanded to its greatest size. Gold from Dacia poured into imperial coffers. Victory monuments celebrated dominance over 3 continents. It seemed no force on earth could rival Roman might. But the illusion of invincibility was already cracking. Because the larger Rome grew, the harder it became to control. Communication across vast distances took weeks. Corruption spread in distant provinces. Armies stationed far from the capital grew culturally detached. The empire that once thrived on unity now struggled under its own scale. Here is the chilling paradox. Rome's strength was built on expansion, but expansion guaranteed instability. The machine that conquered the world could not stop moving. If it paused, it stagnated. If it pushed forward, it overstretched. And somewhere beyond the frontiers, new forces were gathering. For centuries, Rome had dictated the rules of power. Now, for the first time, it would be forced to react. The age of unstoppable conquest was ending. The age of survival was about to begin. Every empire believes it will be the exception to history. Rome was no different. Even as enemies pressed against its borders and internal chaos rotted its foundations, Romans still whispered the same word, eternal. But the storm had already begun. The turning point came not with one battle, but with exhaustion. Plagues swept through cities, killing millions and emptying legions. Inflation spiraled out of control as emperors diluted silver coins to fund endless wars. Farmers abandoned lands crushed by taxes. Recruitment collapsed. For the first time in centuries, Rome struggled to defend what it already owned. Desperation forced a dangerous gamble. Entire barbarian tribes were allowed inside imperial borders, hired as soldiers, settled as allies. They were meant to protect the empire. Instead, they learned its weaknesses. While politicians argued in marble halls, these new warriors studied Roman roads, supply lines, fortresses, and realized the unthinkable. Rome could be beaten. The empire tried to adapt. Power was split between East and West to improve control. A new capital rose in the East, stronger, richer, safer. The West, once the heart of Rome's glory, slowly became the empire's weakest limb. Then came the man who rewrote the future. Constantine the Great legalized Christianity, shifting Rome's spiritual foundation. Pagan temples faded, churches rose. The empire transformed culturally, but political decay continued. Faith could not repair broken borders. And beyond those borders, a force of terror was advancing. Attila the Hun rode west with armies that seemed unstoppable. cities burned, populations fled in panic. His invasion triggered mass migrations of Germanic tribes directly into Roman territory, overwhelming defenses like a human tidal wave. But the most shocking moment came in the year 410. For nearly 800 years, Rome itself had never fallen to a foreign enemy, until it did. The Visigoths stormed the city, looting palaces, dragging citizens into slavery, smashing symbols of imperial power. The unthinkable had happened. The eternal city was no longer untouchable. Though the empire staggered on, its soul was broken. More invasions followed. Provinces shattered into independent kingdoms. Roman authority shrank year by year. Finally, in 476 AD, the last Western emperor was quietly removed from power, without a great battle, without glory, without resistance. The mightiest empire in human history ended not with thunder, but with silence. And here lies the haunting twist. Rome was not defeated by a single enemy. It collapsed under pressure from every direction at once: economic collapse, political corruption, military exhaustion, cultural transformation, and unstoppable migrations. Like a giant whose bones had weakened, it simply could no longer stand. Yet the story does not end in ruin, because even in death Rome refused to disappear. Most people believe Rome died in 476. History textbooks close the chapter there, but the truth is far more unsettling. Because Rome never truly vanished. While the western half collapsed into chaos, the eastern half lived on, stronger, richer, and more organized than ever. Its capital, Constantinople, became the new heart of imperial power. Massive walls protected it. Trade routes flooded it with gold. Roman law continued to evolve. Roman emperors still ruled. What we now call the Byzantine Empire was not a new civilization. It was Rome itself, surviving for nearly 1,000 more years. This changes everything. Rome did not fall in one dramatic moment. It transformed. It adapted. It endured. Which leads historians to a disturbing question. If Rome survived in the East for centuries, was the fall of Rome really a collapse, or simply a slow evolution into something new? Some scholars argue that Rome's so-called destruction was exaggerated by later writers who romanticized catastrophe. Daily life in many regions continued. Roman laws governed people long after emperors disappeared. Roads were still used, cities still stood. The empire didn't explode. It faded. But others believed the collapse was one of history's greatest disasters, a breakdown that erased education, technology, and stability across Western Europe for hundreds of years. Population plummeted, trade networks died, knowledge was lost. Two interpretations, two realities, a slow transformation, or a civilizational catastrophe. And then there is the most haunting twist of all. Many of the systems we live under today, courts, contracts, citizenship, urban planning, even modern government, are built directly on Roman foundations. In a way, Rome still rules the world, not with legions, but with ideas. Yet another mystery lingers. Why did the Eastern Empire survive so long while the West collapsed so quickly? Some blame geography, others point to stronger economies, better administration, or cultural flexibility. But no single explanation fully solves the puzzle. Rome was massive, powerful, advanced. So why couldn't it save itself? Perhaps the most chilling lesson is this. Every empire believes it is too big to fail. Every civilization assumes its systems will last forever. Rome believed that too. Until one day, it didn't. The roads still stretched across continents. The laws still shaped society. The monuments still touched the sky. But the empire behind them was gone. And history has repeated that pattern again and again. Power rises, power expands, power fractures, power falls. The Roman Empire was the strongest the world had ever known. And yet, it proved that even the greatest force in human history is never permanent. The real mystery isn't why Rome fell. The real mystery is which empire today is following the same invisible path toward collapse, and whether we will recognize it before it's too late.